is a Conrad alert. Civil defense information will be broadcast at 6:40.
West of the Rockies, you're on the air. Hello.
Y2K, how can we prepare?
Stop a few of their machines and radios. Throw them into darkness for a few hours.
We are fighting for our lives. My family must survive.
Over 5 years, 1,000 gallons of gas, air filtration, water filtration.
Coming at you from Southern Command, better known as Deliquents Gully, and the beauty that is West Tennessee. Streaming live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Rumble, and Odyssey. Welcome back to the workshop where we create community, find freedom, promote preparedness, and share success. I am Toolman Tim. Today is September the 28th, 2023. This is episode 372 of Workshop Radio. How the hell is everyone out there this evening? It has been a time. I am officially on day, what are we at? This is Wednesday, day 15 of a 36-day live stream. Road trip. Feels like a live stream. Just asked me if it's going to be on Rumble. I just realized I've been saying Rumble in my intro, but being on a laptop and a very small screen, it has become difficult to get the Rumble setup done ahead of time. So I apologize. Next time I go live, I will make sure I have Rumble. When I'm at home in the studio, I have this process step by step, bam, 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 and I get it all done. When you're on a laptop with a single screen, everything becomes cramped, and there you go. So it will be there next time. All right. From there, but we are on all the other platforms. We're on 2 places in YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, and all. Hey, Spags Unfiltered, what's up, what's up, what's up? We're going to see him at Midwest Preparedness Festival in Kansas, which I am excited for. Anyway, here we go. So first off, hey, Digger, did you get your present in the mail yet? Because it was sent out last week. I sent it from the post office in Louisville, Kentucky. We're going to start out with a segment called I Shit You Not. This is a little bit different, though, because I reached out to all our fellow delinquents on the workshop Telegram group where all the cool kids hang out. And I said, hey, what do you want me to talk about tonight? I got a bunch of things on the go, and I will share everything and anything you want to know. But I was asked, what in the world is up with Canadian Thanksgiving? And I'm like, well, what do you mean? Anyway, no, I'm just kidding. So for those who don't know, Canadian Thanksgiving is not the same as American Thanksgiving. So I had to look up some of the particulars because I just happen to know that our Thanksgiving is the second Monday in October every year. And your guys' is what, the last Thursday in November? So that puts a wide swath between them. So what are the differences? Well, to be absolutely honest, on the surface, they are about the same. Number one, though, we don't have Black Friday immediately following our Thanksgiving. We have adopted Black Friday down here, which is great. Well, I guess, whatever you want to call it. So where did our Thanksgiving come from? Well, ours, I know this is going to blow you guys out of the water, originated from a British holiday. I know, right? So known as Harvest Festival. So apparently, Thanksgiving is not something that is celebrated over in Europe almost exclusively. But they do celebrate Harvest Festival, which is roughly around the same time. So we adopted that because, you know, you guys fought for your freedom and we hung around till the Queen get tired of us. So we just kind of picked everything up that the British did. However, following the Revolutionary War, the fellers or ladies or whatever who were still honoring the monarchy, who moved to Canada, brought all of their customs like pumpkins and pies and turkey. They brought it up. And kind of, we get this weird conglomeration of American and Canadian Thanksgiving. So really at this point, other than, of course, the history, American and Canadian Thanksgiving are the same, other than the dates. So funny story. I hope you guys enjoy this. Many years ago when I was working at the hardware store, we had this big crew of Texans who came up, and this is little old Nova Scotia, Canada. They were working on the windmills. And one day, this guy would always come in. And, you know, in Canada, traditionally, Canadians know most everything about the U.S., but it's not reciprocated because we grew up with American TV. Americans don't grow up with Canadian TV. No worries. Not a big deal. So this big old Texan one day, I look at him and I said, hey, when are you going to have the windmills done? And this was in September. And he said, oh, by Thanksgiving for sure. And I was like, wow, that's not bad. And I look at him with the straightest face in the world. And I say, wow, in October, you guys are going to be done really fast. And he says, what are you talking about? October for Thanksgiving? And I said, well, that's when Thanksgiving is. And he looks at me with this weird, he says, no, dude. He says, Thanksgiving's in November. And without skipping a beat, I said, man, Thanksgiving in November, that has got to be the weirdest thing I have ever heard. And I don't know if the guy ever knew I was busting his balls or not, but it cracked me up. So there's that. So there, I hope you got your fill. That is your Canadian Heritage moment of the evening. I got a shout out. Hey, Hack My Homestead. Great to have you. Speak of our resident Russian Empire, Roman Empire historian, Sean Mills, and doing some great things with direct 12-volt solar. I got to shout out my 3 sponsors tonight right quick, guys, because I've been up and down on live streams while I've been in the middle of this epic road trip. So first off, remember my brother, Fortress K9, Joel Riles. Add him to your podcast ear holes in case you're looking to kind of fill up and get built up. Follow him. And you're like, but I'm not into dogs. That's cool. Joel is all about motivating the hell out of you, giving you a kick to the behind, and telling you like it is, all in a good way. Trust me. Two Chicks Homestead, guys. Nate and Aaron. I was just there. They were nice enough to put on a delinquent get-together, a workshop get-together, and it was incredible. I don't know what else to say, but they put out things, product, and their time, more importantly, beyond what I could ever repay them for. So thank you guys for that. But give them a follow. Nate just launched his brand new ham radio business. I haven't opened my pop yet, but since we said ham radio, we will have a drink. TwoChicksHomestead.com. You can get all the information over there. And finally, I saw Amy Dingman in the Self-Reliance Festival live stream just a little earlier on. Don't forget to check her out. She's relaunching her podcast. I believe it's the first week in, when was that? First week in October, right around Canadian Thanksgiving. So there you go. And Chris Dixon, good to hear you. Hey, he said he enjoyed the shout out. Dude, I'm going to shout Chris out again because that man is building the life he wants to live. And I don't want to give away his joy, but he just did something huge in his life that if he wants to share it, he can. But all I can say is I'm proud. And it's 100% because he started building the life he wanted to live. So follow suit, folks. Look what you want to do. Set a goal, step by step, baby. How do you eat an airplane? If you don't know that story, it's okay. One piece at a time. There you go. And Chris, love hearing what fellow delinquents do, guys. Well, let's give you an update on this road trip. Like I said, this is day 15 of 36, so I'm getting close to the midway point. It has been busy. Where have I been so far? Well, you guys know I spent some time at the workshop Two Chicks Homestead get-together, which was great. Took a couple of days off in Louisville, Kentucky. Loved that as well. And then straight down to Saluda, North Carolina for what turns out to be basically a 4-day event, prepper camp. 2,000 people there. I filled most in, but lots of interviews. I believe it was 13. I got to check on my phone, but I have got a ton of cool content coming up. And I've mentioned it before, but I have been stockpiling really, really good half-hour to 45-minute in-person interviews this year. So I'm picking the best of the best. I'm going to have 12 or 13. I haven't decided yet. They're going to be highly polished, edited with a nice intro for each one. And I'm going to release them as a season next year. And I don't know how we're going to do it, but it's going to either be monthly or weekly. I'm guessing monthly. So if it's going to be monthly, it has to be 12. It's still going to be part of Workshop Radio, but it's going to be this kind of shareable, inspirational interviews, I guess. And we haven't exactly settled on a name yet, but so I've been getting some really great ones. And I told you all about that the other day. So after I left prepper camp, I stayed a night in Cookville, of all places, just basically to get my feet under me because that was as far as I wanted to drive until it got really dark. I made it through the mountains and I was happy with that and ended up at the hauler for the day. Spent the day with Nicole and Tactical, which was awesome. we both needed a friend to just sit down and chat with. So that was, yeah, it was great for both of us. Drank a lot of coffee, ended up doing a surprise live stream on Community. So that was great as well. And then I headed to my secret enclave in Nashville. No, I took a couple of days of downtime, which is kind of what I try to do after each event. But as I was leaving Nicole's, I was not feeling great, just like under the weather. And there was a bug going around at Prepper Camp, which I assumed I got 48 hours, guys. I was down and out for 48 hours and then came back feeling just as good as ever. So I had some sort of bug, was not feeling good for 2 days, basically just slept and hung around and did very little, which sucks when you're on a road trip. But when you're on a road trip that's over a month long, you got to pace yourself. So I did it. I'm now south of Camden quite a ways. I got a hotel here. And for the next few days, we are going to be, Brian Alexovich from the Lots Project. We spent the day together today. We are working on Deliquents Gully. And for those out there who don't know what Deliquents Gully is, we'll have some video footage for you. But we could call it Southern Command as well. But really what it is a home away from home for us. It turns out it's now about, it has expanded slightly. It started at around 10 acres. It's now around 16. And it's about 40 minutes south of Camden, way back in the woods, but it's not difficult to get to, which is kind of cool. And from there, we are going to, it's going to be, so Brian Alexovich and I have been working on it. We've got a bunch of little plots cleared out. Brian was out there yesterday and weed whipped the entire main cabin lot, which is kind of halfway up the hill and overlooks everything. I'm stoked about that. I am. So today we spent, so we got up to, 30 degrees Celsius, which I think is around 90 or high 80s. So it was hot, but honestly, for the most part, you get a breeze in there. Toward the middle of the afternoon, the breeze died off, but we got a lot done. We ended up clearing a path wide enough to get the truck in. So I had to go down through a ditch and back up, nice and dry. Stopped. So I mentioned this. I did an episode last week on making community. Excuse me. And I mentioned in there that one of the best places to go when you're looking to learn local information or learn local people and just kind of get a feel for the local community is the local building supply place or the local hardware store. So I went to a place called Bucks today, and it reminded me of every hardware / building supply shop that I was in the 80s. This place had an awesome vibe to it. Just your chill sort of backwoods hardware store. And they were super nice. Give me their business card so I can order things in case Brian has a job he wants to do out on the property. But just making connections. I chatted with the guy working in the yard, and he told me about the rougher areas of town. He told me about the hotels you don't want to stay at. He told me about where he came from, but it's just nice talking to people. And so before we left earlier this year, this is something else we did. We went and met the neighbors. So there's a piece of land that borders behind us. Becky and I went over and met this really nice old couple. The hubby used to be very active, and he had a stroke, and he's in a motorized wheelchair. But we stopped and had a great chat for about 20 minutes, just salt of the earth type people. These are some pretty cool stories. Anyway, so I overshot my road today, and I went by their house, and he was out front in his wheelchair. So I just stopped in, and he remembered me, smiled, and said hello, and I shook his hand, and we talked or conversed for 10 minutes, and I went on my way. And that was cool. And then Brian had met my neighbor down in the it's not a holler, but wherever, down in Deliquents Gully. So I stopped and met that gentleman who is super cool dude. He's got a nice little off-grid property that he's building. He's got rain catchment. He's got a little garden. He has solar panels, a really cool workshop that he built, an outdoor kitchen, just a really nice off-grid property. And some goats and a little tiny hound called, I think it was Buster, maybe. I can't remember for sure, but super sweet. Just wanted to be picked up the entire time. So got to meet that neighbor. And then on my way back out tonight, Brian went out first. As soon as I got back up to the main drag, all my text messages and missed phone calls came through. So I pulled over to the side of the road so I wouldn't get stopped by the police for trying to text and drive or anything like that. And I see a neighbor, another guy from that road, drive by, and I see him hit his brakes. I thought, he's a good old boy coming back just to see what I'm up to. And he come back and he'd seen Toolman Tim's workshop on the side of the truck. And he said, "Are you the dude that's coming to fix my floor?" And I said, "No, but I probably could." So anyway, I stood there in the road and talked to him for about 20 minutes, just in the middle of the, on the yellow line there. And we had a great talk, and he's telling me about his wife and his home and everything. So it was really good. Those are the type of conversations that you do, or that you try to have with your neighbors. And don't ever come at people wanting to show them what you know. Don't ever come at people wanting them to explain the differences of where you're from to where they're from. Just ask questions. Be genuinely curious with people, because to me, that's how I get to be friendly with people, because I enjoy people. Everybody's got a cool story. And, if a dude had stopped on the side of the road and he was a huge dick with me, I would have just told him to F off and take a hike, dude. But obviously I didn't. I was very happy to have a conversation with him. And one other funny story earlier today, when I was at the hardware store, the dude said, "Canada, what in the world are you doing down here?" And I said, "Well, we've got a lot of friends in the area, and we fell in love with Tennessee, and we really enjoyed it." And he looks at me, and he gets a strange look on his face, because, people have this idea of us Canadians, and he says, "You do realize that we're probably the single most armed state in the U.S., right?" And without skipping a beat, I looked at him. I said, "Why do you think I wanted to move down here?" And he just took to laughing, and that was it. So, don't judge people. Hey, Liv, my oldest daughter's in there tonight. Oh, and I see Ted McDonald. Great to see you too, brother. But yes, good to see you, Liv. So yeah, that's the type of thing. Just have genuine human interactions with people. That's what it comes down to, guys. 100%. So beyond that, I drove out to a town. So I decided to explore a little bit. So I kind of went southwest of where I was today to Savannah, and had some southern fried chicken at a gas station chicken joint, which it looked like a chicken joint from outside. And then you go inside and it just looked like a, convenience store. It was okay. It was good chicken. I've had just as good in many other places before. But it was a nice little drive out there across the Tennessee River. If you've never done that, it's beautiful. The bridges that cross it. I crossed it once last year when I was heading out of town to pick up some TVs for Nicole for Self-Reliance Festival. So I got to see that. That was beautiful. The deer, oh my goodness, are the deer ever small? And the deer I saw were not, fawns. These were full size. Yeah. Chris Dixon says, "Did you have 7-Eleven chicken in Tennessee?" Well, it was something like that. And Liv wants to know how my trip's going. It's going excellent, darling. It was good to have a couple of days to settle down and do as little as possible. So yeah, the deer. Oh my dear. Dad joke. Insert dad joke here. Shut up, Tim. Move on. But yeah, anyway, they are very tiny, which is fine. I think they're whitetails. I could be wrong. Somebody out there who knows this area just a little bit better than me, you can tell me, but they look more like whitetail than they do. Okay, there we go. And Sean, are they whitetail? They don't look like muley deer to me, but I could be wrong about that. One step closer said, "Stay away from the gas station sushi." Hey, we just had that conversation. I trust gas station sushi as much as I trust sushi from a Chinese buffet. Thank you, Byron. Whitetail, yeah. And he says, we can kill 3 a day. Well, no wonder. I mean, there's about enough on them to make a sandwich out of it. So that's okay. They're cute, though. Really sweet looking little things. And I was looking at them. I'm like, I don't want to hit one, but if I do, there's as good a chance I'm going to drive over it as I am going to wreck the front end. So there is that, but you still don't want to hit deer if you can help it. I got a storage unit rented in the area. So that helps. That in a minute, it's going to lead me into what I'm going to show you guys on the live stream tonight. But yeah, so I started putting together my own toolbox, my own kind of tool system for south of the border. It's not as many as, it's not fancy DeWalt gear. Let's just put it that way. But it is what it is. So anyway, got a storage locker, just a little 5x5, but it's going to be enough for me to leave all of my presentation gear down here so that I don't have to haul them north and south. I won't have to haul tools north and south. And it's just going to be our little stake until we build something till we get something secure and watertight on the property in Deliquents Gully. So that's been dealt with. Let's see, okay. So let's talk a bit about what Brian and I were up to today. We're going to record some stuff together while we're out there. It looks like we're going to be working the next 3 or 4 days. I think through the weekend anyway. So it's going to be pretty good. So we're working on building a shitter. I mentioned that. Thanks, Liv. She likes my hat. Appreciate it. We're building a composting outhouse, actually, which is great. It's going to be fairly close to the access of the property. So we're kind of trying to figure out where we can park all these vehicles for the workday, because it looks like a dozen or more people coming, which is absolutely awesome. And we're going to put you to work. We spent a lot of time walking the property today. It's on a hill, but what's nice about it is you kind of come up to a plateau in many places. So we walked up and down, get a feel for everything, get to see where Brian had cleaned off the main property completely, which was awesome. I say main property. When I say that, that's the flat area where the main building is going to go. And then we started working on cutting up some trees, hauling away some deadfall. We now have, I think, about a 95% clear path. I was going to say 95%, 100% clear path all the way up to the main property. So you get a couple switchbacks. The only issue, we got 2 issues we're going to clear up in the next little bit. We might do it on the workday. Is there's a stream that runs through one area. There is kind of a natural depression where dirt has gathered on top of some old trees or something. We've been using that, but we're going to make a permanent bridge across there, which is kind of cool. And then we have one other little spot where we went to the right of a tree and we decided we're going to make the path to the left, because to the right, there's just some little knolls and things that might make people a little more prone to rolling their ankles or stepping in a hole. So we're going to end up just moving that to the left, but that's it. So we can now very easily walk up to the main platform where our it's not even going to be a bunkhouse. It's going to be a full-on cottage house eventually. It's going to start with an 8x8, and we're going to go from there. So that's really exciting. And then Brian and I played in the water for a bunch. We were just going around, checking out the property, making plans, talking about what we're going to do for the workday and what we're going to get done this week. And we decided, when we were there before, Brian had kind of noticed that the stream ran all the time. And what we can figure is it's an underground spring that comes out of the hill somewhere there. Because our neighbor has been drinking the spring up the road from us for the last year, and he hasn't dropped over yet, so he's doing pretty good. So we just started picking rocks out of Brian started picking rocks out of the stream to start with. And so I started working my way up and threw rocks at him for a while. That was kind of fun, trying to hit him on purpose, but not really, make it feel like I didn't actually hit him. So we kept piling it in, and I don't know, I'd have to ask him, but I think we've got about 6 inches of water built up there. We probably a 4-inch difference between the lower side and the upper side. And then we dug out some as well. So we're going to keep working on. Oh, yeah, Chris says we should get it tested. There's no way I'm drinking it without getting it tested, and I probably still won't drink it per se. I mean, we will after it's been treated, but yeah, I ain't drinking that stuff without. That would be, I would say, against the first rule of survival by doing that. But yes, so we're going to get it tested for sure. But it's nice to have a buildup of water there that we, that's a step in the right direction, because water is, no, we won't be able to swim in it, but Brian and I were talking about that it would be something that we could probably, you could probably bend down your knees in it on a hot day and just kind of splash it around and cool yourself off just a little bit. And I made plenty of good dad jokes today as well. One step says, mix it with a bourbon to kill the microbes. Yeah, that's what we were thinking. So it's, I would say, 15 feet from where we built the dam to where we're going to build the bridge. So we're kind of looking at damming that up to kind of build up some water there, and then put an IBC tote up on the landing that's right near the bridge somewhere with a little solar pump, and that'll give us some stored water. Now, this is all, of course, none of this is going to happen tomorrow, but we do have some plans for tomorrow, so we'll talk about that a little bit. So the next thing is I went to the local hardware store, picked up 50 2x4 So tomorrow we are going to frame up the outhouse. So it'll be really good. We'll get as much as we can do in there, done tomorrow, framed up. We're gonna, I think Brian said we're gonna use a 30-gallon, I don't know, can't call it a bucket, a 30-gallon plastic barrel in there so that we're not hauling 5-gallon buckets out full of shavings. So in theory, what we want to have, hey, Homestead Medical, hey, Jake from Ravenwood Acres, great to have you guys. And we could get some Life Straws from Costco. Ted said that as well, and it would work for sure. So that's going to give us built up water. That's an issue. You need water. There will be some sun exposure, especially where our property is. So we're going to be able to get some solar up there eventually. But yeah, so we're building a composting outhouse. And Brian and I were talking about this today. And I don't know why composting outhouses weren't a thing ages ago. If you haven't looked into them, they're incredible. I mean, the missus used them and had no problem with them at all. I mean, they just don't stink. You go into your traditional outhouse, or heaven help you use one of those like pit toilets on the side of the highway in Alberta. Well, man, you might as well go in there and you think they killed a small kid in there because it is just awful. But I mean, it's just sawdust and human whatever, and it works so well. The work day, I think, Chuck, is the same day as your course, which I knew something was. It's the Thursday before Self-Reliance Festival. We're probably going to be down there a couple of days. Well, we will be down there a few days ahead of time. So thank you, Hack My Homestead. Sean knows. And yeah, I'm stoked. I can't believe all the people that want to come. We're putting together lists. So what it looks like it's going to be is path clearing, site clearing. I'm going to have enough material on hand, I believe, to build an 8x8 outbuilding. So what I'm thinking is, and I didn't tell Brian this yet, but we were going to build the outbuilding or the building down right by the entrance. So that's where the composting toilet's going to be, because we need something central for anybody coming or anybody who's going to be camping out there, that sort of thing. But man, I would really love to have an 8x8 cabin, outbuilding, whatever, built up on our main property. That, I don't know, that just to me is so exciting. And after the progress we made today, I thought, you know what, we probably could do that. So we're going to frame up the shitter tomorrow. We'll get that done. We cleared the path. We now have a spot where we can drive in, I would say, a third of the way to the upper property. So what that does for me is that's going to make hauling all the lumber up easier. And I was thinking, if we've got, a dozen sets of hands or more, maybe we could at least get, anyway, so we'll talk about it. But so we're going to be doing some constructing, maybe a bit of, tree falling, not a lot, but it's going to be path clearing, site clearing, and also building. And yeah, anything else anybody wants. So we discussed the food. We're going to have, looks like we'll have cold cuts. So we're going to have stuff in coolers for lunch. And then we're going to have, sausages and hamburgers and that sort of thing that we can cook up on a couple of camp stoves, because we're obviously kind of limited, and I'm not the best event coordinator in no, I'm just kidding. But thank goodness for Brian's wife, Corey. She came up with a great idea. So yeah, there'll be drinks and food and everything will be provided. Bring the type of tools that you like to work with, because we're a bit limited on what we have, but we'll supply anything we can. Absolutely. We're only 8 miles from a building supply shop. So if we do need anything, we can run up and get it. Yeah. So it's going to be fun. We managed. So we were originally wondering how we were going to get all of the 2x4s into where we needed to build the outhouse. So we assumed we were going to have to hump everything in by hand. But in the great words of the late, great Sandy, he was my operator in the oil patch. He said, if you want to find out the easiest way to do something, hire a lazy person to do it. So I've taken that to heart for the rest of my life. And anyway, so basically what we did was we looked at the land for a bit, and I look and I say, you know what? And the best stories always start this way. I'm pretty sure I can get my truck through that ditch. Pretty sure. I was 80% sure, 90% sure before I started, and I was 100% sure afterwards. Thank you, Sean. He says, I'll bring some chainsaws and metal. Oh my goodness, metal blade weed whack. I'm so happy I could almost cry, brother. That's all we need is that kind of stuff. Hey, Haas, great to have you. So yeah, we're going to have a hell of a time. If we can get some main paths going out, and we've got some campsites. So, okay, back up, Tim. So here's the plan. So Brian and Corey in the area basically year round at this point. So what Brian's going to be doing is overseeing some campsites on there. So he's going to be putting it through Hip Camp and trying to make a little bit of income off it. And so what we're doing is we're going to set up, we've already, I believe, and Carrie could be wrong about this. I think we found 4 bunkhouse sites. So these will be originally just campground sites, which will just be flat areas. And then 1 main house site. And that's going to be our main living quarters eventually. But what's going to happen is we're going to set up these 4 campsites to start with. People will tent on them, camp on them, and kind of beat the area down. And as we have the time, each trip I come down, we'll build 1 or 2 8x8 outbuildings on those campsites. So what they'll end up being is extensions of the main building, kind of bunk areas. If we ever need to have extended family come for extended periods of time, we'll all have kind of our own privacy. So that's kind of what we have. And yeah, so I'm excited. We'll give you a whole outlay of the place, but Brian's done incredible work just keeping the trails down. From when I was there in April till now, it's unreal how much greenery is in there. Just massive tall stuff. So it was a fun time. We had a great time today. I know it's going to be hard to believe, but we probably did just as much talking as we did working. And if we were on a scale or if I was on a lie detector test, I would say we probably talked a bit more than we worked, but that's totally fine because it was 90 degrees and we were pacing ourselves. So it was a great time. John Palmer says, hold my beer. I almost always have to hold my beer. Yeah, yes. So I'm going to do something now that's going to wash out the picture a little bit. I'm going to turn on this lamp next to me. How bad is that? Oh, it's really bad. I apologize. How are we going to do this? Let's turn that off this way so we can get at least a little bit off center. That'll have to do. So, all right. I titled tonight's episode Starting Over just because it's clickbaity and you know how that is. I really don't think I can get any better light. So I apologize, guys. It's going to be washed out to the face. But so what I did was the other day I went to Harbor Freight and got myself, that's better. Got myself, I don't know. I didn't really set a budget, but I wanted to see what kind of budget I'd come in at. And so I had to put together this new tool bag it's going to be my south of the border toolkit. And it just needed to be the bare minimum kind of stuff that I could build a structure with. Thinking about it was kind of a fun process because I remember back when Becky and I weren't even married yet. We just started living together and we decided to get chickens. And so I had to build a chicken coop. And, I don't think I'd even built a tree fort since I was 5 years old at that point. So I don't know. It'd been a long time. So I had to start buying up the stuff. And I wanted to buy quality, but we didn't have a lot of money. I bought my famous East Wing hammer, which I love immensely. But beyond that, I bought cheap. And I also didn't want to be consistently coming across the border with tools. I have legitimate reasons for doing it. Hey, Backwoods Butcher, great to have you, brother. I can come down. I have the paperwork to show, hey, I'm going to work on my property. But when you have a bag full of tools in a work truck heading to the States, it just opens you up to more questions at the border. So I figured, why not? We're going to get a storage unit down here anyway. Why not just bite the bullet and build myself a nice tool bag for down here? So I figured, let me show you what I built. You guys will get to see it, and we'll go from there. So let's start with the bag itself because, the first thing I tell everybody at preparedness at, it was at Prepper Camp this year is if you're going to build a preparedness toolbox, what do you got to have? A toolbox to put it in. And everybody just laughs. And then I'm like, yeah, but the problem is you might, you want to have your tools in a central place, but your kids have different ideas. So put them all in a tool bag and you'll be all set. So here we go. So here's the tool bag right here. It was just a kind of a cheap little, I don't know what I did with the receipt right at the moment, but it was an inexpensive soft-sided tool bag. And I wanted all my gear to, Ted says, thank goodness you found that East Wing. I think I probably would have cried. I'm glad you remember that, Ted. Anyway, guys, for anybody who wants to know, my famous, very loved hammer spent the entire winter under the hood of my dump truck. Can't really remember how it got under there. I don't know. Anyway, it was there. I found it in the spring, and that was the answer to my prayer. So there you go. So Dixon says you got a Phillips screwdriver. Yeah, well, most things are Torx down here now anyway. But yeah, so that was the soft-sided bag. I think it was around $20. I went with the biggest, cheapest tool bag I could find because, I'm not going to be towing a truck with it. I'm not going to be, doing anything serious with it. So let me show you what I got. So let's get the big guy out of the way first. So this was just the cheapest 2-foot aluminum level I could find. I think this was like $5 or something like that. I wish I'd have saved the receipt over there for you, but I don't know what I did with it. So you need a level, you want to make sure everything's on the level. Haas says, I use one to keep all my battery banks, charging cords, and flashlights. That's actually a really good idea. John Palmer says, easy, don't have kids and the tools stay where they belong. Yeah, but what's the fun in that? I mean, I remember losing some of my dad's best tools because I didn't respect them. So there's that. Yeah, so that little 2-foot level, that was kind of cool. Tripod, you don't need to worry about right at the moment. Let's see. So we went back and forth. We talked about the more expensive cordless brand from Harbor Freight. The name is eluding me at the moment. Backwoods says your builds are level. Well, they're level with the level, if that helps. But so I went back and forth. I was thinking about trying the more expensive battery brand. And then I caved because the American, so the biggest expense, probably half the cost of what I spent. Hercules, thank you, One Step. I got fried today in the sun. No, anyway. So I ended up deciding to go with Bauer. So this is a Bauer 3-amp-hour battery. The main reason I did that was so I can take the batteries back with me and use them on my Bauer tools that I already own. So it's nothing to throw the 2 batteries I bought into my truck and not worry about it. But I'm not going to take all of the cordless stuff back with me because, again, it'll attract attention. So I bought a 3-amp-hour. You'll see what that's for in a minute, but I have to work my way through. So if there was one splurge, I wouldn't say splurge, but I talked about this the other night. If there was one item I bought, Ravenwood says too much bourbon. One item I bought that I may or may not need. It's the one item that I thought, whatever. Anyway, 15-inch pry bar. I believe this was like $3 or $4. Nothing serious at all. But I love a pry bar. I find uses for pry bars all the time. And I couldn't justify buying a massive slot screwdriver, which is something I keep in my tool bag back home because it's a great pry bar and a decent improvised chisel as well. So we went with a cheap pry bar. Probably the tool that I use, not the most, but man, I use these a lot. And that's a carpenter square. So this combined with a circular saw can give you almost as good a cut as a table saw, at least for cross cutting, one of those things. But if you clamp this down on the board or like this, is that right? No, like this. There we go. Clamp it and then put the shoe of the circular saw against it and push through while you're holding it. You're going to get a massively nice straight line. But this just speeds up your process for so many things that I had to have one. This was like $3, so not going to go wrong with that. The cordless stuff is what I ended up fighting with. So here's the smaller one, inch and a half, 1.5-amp-hour battery. This is going to be for the drill. This is going to be for the circular saw. We'll show you that a bit in a minute. I didn't want to skimp on a hammer, so I ended up buying the Pittsburgh brand, Opus.Pro brand. I like a 20-ounce hammer. I always have. I like a big striking face. The only thing I don't love is this is a traditional framing here. I think they call it traditional. It's got those dimples on it. I prefer a flat-headed hammer, but I'm not that professional, so I can put up with it. But this is very similar in design, build, and weight to my East Wing, and it wasn't that expensive. So this is the hammer I picked. And for those who are looking, anybody in the audio, I did not. So Ted wants to know if I brought any DeWalt batteries with me. I could have and brought some adapters with me, but I wasn't. Yeah, Chris says I could grind them off. You're right, I could. I wasn't really thinking about that. Last minute, I decided I had my tool bag in the truck. I was going to bring all my tools down with me. And last minute, I thought, I'm already bringing so much shit with me. I don't want to be overcrowded, but I really didn't want to attract undue attention. So I decided last minute it was time to buy an American tool bag. So you know what? Since the Waffle House doesn't sell tools, I had to buy them at Harbor Freight. Let's put it that way. All right. Well, you know what? Let's bring this bag up here so I'm not down there shouting at you the entire time. All right. I decided to buy the rapid charger this time. It was like $10 more, but it apparently charges twice as fast or something crazy like that. I already have one. think this will stay down here. Hey, Mitch, great to have you. So we'll have this for charging the 2 cordless tools, and I may end up buying, Ted says he could have sent me a framing nailer. I appreciate that, brother. Ted is the king of finding inexpensive cordless tools. Now, I may end up buying a cordless chainsaw and maybe a cordless weed whipper from Harbor Freight eventually, but I haven't got to that point yet. So, all right, next is I bought the absolute cheapest impact driver that Harbor Freight sells. This thing is a very weird design. It's got a 3/8 chuck on the front. That's all I cared about. I love impact drivers. It's all I use. I mean, it's like Frank's Red Hot. I put that shit on everything. I use this for everything. But I was able to buy some of those structural screws today at the hardware store. We call them GRK screws in Canada, but they've got a Torx bit on them. Those things are great. So this is what I use for driving those suckers home. So this will be what we use for screwing, because you don't want to end up screwed. That would be bad. All right, I bought this little, I think it's about a 30-piece bit set. I needed something to show off, to drive screws home and that sort of thing. And for some reason, I can't seem to open it no matter how I try here. So let's see if we can do this again. Right in the middle, I guess, is where it needs to be. That is the weirdest design I've ever seen. There you go. So this has got just a good, for any of those on the audio, just got a good little bit. It's got some Robertsons in there, which I'm not going to use down here. Got some Phillips and lots of Torx bits. So you need something to run on the impact. Simple as that. Haas says, do I use air tools? Not really at this point. So here's what I found. I love cordless gear, and I don't do a lot of air nailing anyway, but I bought the cordless battery-powered DeWalt finish nailer. That thing is awesome. And of course, I didn't buy a compressor because I have the DeWalt inflation station. And and the driller. That's kind of different, but I have the DeWalt collated screw gun as well, the stand-up one. That thing's, I wouldn't trade that for anything. All right, so this is the biggest guy. So I bought this. This is the 6.5-inch Bauer cordless circular saw. One thing that I knew that it's not going to come with a battery or a charger. Well, this was so cheap, it didn't even come with a blade. So I had to pick one of those up today. But a couple other things. Since I always recommend everybody to make sure you get safety gear, I did that this time. I bought gloves, which was awesome. I took them in the woods today and used them with Brian until I took them off and got a big splinter in my hand. So I'm an idiot. I also bought an inexpensive pair of safety glasses, $2 for smoke-colored safety glasses. That way, if something catches on fire, I won't be able to tell. Took me a while to find these. You guys might be able to find them in Harbor Freight easy enough, but I bought 4 carpenter's pencils for like 20 cents a piece. And 2 areas that I didn't want to skimp. I needed the utility knife, so I bought this Doyle. I think it was still only about $10, but it really reminded me of my Milwaukee Fastback, which I love. Hold it up so everybody can see it, guys. Tim. Anyway, so there it is. This was a little more money. I could have bought something. Chris said he thought I was going to say I lost my right glove already. It will disappear. Don't know why that happens. It just, it's always the right one, not the wrong one that I lose. So I don't understand. Anyway, so there it is. I love these. These are my favorite utility knives. I do need to pick up an extra pack of blades for it, but always good to have. Absolutely. And finally, one other area that I refuse to skimp on is a tape measure. I'm telling you, the only thing I hate worse than a cheap tape measure is a shopping cart with a wheel that pulls to the side. That's enough to make me want to throw the shopping cart through a produce display. I'm telling you, just like that. So anyway, I looked at what they had on hand. Their offerings weren't great at Harbor Freight. You'll see a video. I did a video on all this that I recorded the other night in the hotel, but I needed a 25-footer. I needed something with a decent standout, and I wanted something with a wide blade and a nice, fairly sturdy clip on the end. This is not that sturdy. I could bend it if I wanted to, but I ended up buying right here. This is, let's see if you can see that there, the Hercules Magnum 25, ultra wide. That really sounds like a condom, but it's not. This is a, yeah, definitely a tape measure. So there you go. It was, I needed something with some snap, but it's a nice tape measure. So that's what I needed. That was what I bought. That's it. So not too bad. Came in at $309 plus tax. if I'd have been smart about it, maybe I could have bought it up north and not paid tax on some of the stuff, but it doesn't matter. So it wasn't too bad. I'm happy. I now have an American tool bag that's gonna, spend probably 10 months of the year for the next little while in the storage locker. But you know what? It'll be there when I need it. So that makes me happy. And it's nice. I mean, do I have friends that I can borrow things from? Sure I do. But it's also nice to have your own shit too, if you know what I mean. They're big things or things that I might need to borrow on occasion. Yeah, that's great. But I don't want to be like, hey guys, it's me again. I need a whole tool bag. Plus, it gives me something to make content on, gives me something to bitch about, gives me something to talk about in the Telegram group, because Becky won't want to hear about all this new stuff. She'll just be like, how much should it cost? And what's the return on investment? And I'm like, dude, it was less than $1,000, and it won't take more than 12 years to pay itself back. So you're all set. But I do miss her quite a bit. It sure would be nice to see her on the road here before too long. What do we got coming right here? Hang on. And Dixon says I'm going to want a 100-foot tape measure. A couple other things that we learned. Well, one main thing that Brian learned more than I did. So when we went down in April, I stopped at the local hardware store and I bought 3 different types of spray paint and 3 or 4 different types of surveyor's flagging tape. Well, I want to tell you something. Don't use yellow, at least not in Tennessee. 2 things. It almost went invisible just from the sun. And secondly, once all of the foliage comes in, it is impossible to see. So pink and or bright orange worked really well. Also, Brian had the smart idea, and I'm glad he thought of it now, to reach as high as he could on the tree and make marks. Because what we ended up finding was, in a lot of instances where we marked the trees, the fluorescent paint was too low down and it was blocked by all the other beautiful stuff. So Mitch says, next time you come through the Midwest, you should check out Menards. It's a staple here. I've never been in the Menards. So yeah, I always like to look at new stores. And you guys will be surprised, but I went to Savannah tonight and I drove by a Harbor Freight and I didn't stop in. I know, don't lose your collective ever-loving minds, but I just went down there to find somewhere interesting to eat supper, kind of explore the lay of the land, and then I wanted to get back in time to have a live stream. And it turned out I got back in time to have 2 live streams. So there was that. But Brian and I are going back out tomorrow. We're going to put the toilet together, and we'll go from there. We got to pick up a barrel somewhere, something if I can't find it, he'll be able to get one for us locally. Beyond that, I think we're going to work part way through the weekend and into next week. And I think Wednesday, I believe I'll be heading north to Kansas. So less than a week, I'm heading back to another event. That's going to be a wham bam thank you ma'am event, because I'm going to be leaving here on Wednesday or Thursday. No, not Thursday. Yeah, Wednesday. I'll be heading straight up to Kansas. The event runs, I'm just going to be there. I believe it's just Friday and Saturday. Then straight back down Sunday to be back down here in time for work day for Thursday. Got a couple things I have to do in the interim. And then Self-Reliance Festival, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then heading back north. I think I'm going to take one extra day, so it may end up being a 37-day road trip. I'm going to take a detour west into Montana to pick up all my mail, because there's been a shit ton of parcels show up at the mailbox there. Hey, beautiful Mrs. Cook. Where in Kansas? Perry, Kansas, John Palmer. That's where I think it's Perry. I'm pretty sure it is, guys. The Midwest Preparedness Project, the one that Spags and Tag and all them put on up there. It's going to be good. I had no idea, but I mean, Nicole's going to be there as well, and Chuck Peoples is going to be there. So it will be like Self-Reliance Festival North. One step closer, says Perry Lake Midwest Preparedness Festival. Yeah, it's going to be a great time. And I think it officially starts on Tuesday. I don't know, sometime this week. So it's a long old event. But this will be event number 3 for me. I guess the work day is event number 4, and then Self-Reliance Festival will be event number 5. That'll be it. And I just can't stretch it out any longer than that. So then I got to head north, because it sure would be nice to get off the road before the snow starts flying. So it'll be a good time. So hope you guys enjoyed this episode tonight. I had a great time putting it together. It's been, I didn't expect to do a back-to-back with Self-Reliance, and completely forgot to even plug my own event after that. So it's going to be a good time. So what do you need to know? When am I going to be live again? No idea. Anyway, just kidding. But I don't really know. There's tons of content in the pipeline, so you're never going to miss out on an episode. There'll be lots coming up as I go. But when I have time and I get back in time, I'll put an episode together for you. And I love spending time with you guys because this is why I do what I do, and I love hanging out with you. Beyond that, we're going to keep working. Like I said, there'll be episodes going up. I'll try to, Brian and I will do a recording together at least at some point this week. And most importantly, anyway, if you're in the area and you want to come the Thursday before, I believe Sean said it was October 12th. I'm glad Sean knows because I have a really hard time remembering dates, but I believe it was, let's see, October 12th is the work day. And yeah, I can get you directions. It's really easy to get to. It's just basically 40 minutes exactly south of Camden, and then you turn right and we'll get you there. There'll be markers. We'll put balloons or I don't know what we'll put out, something anyway. Maybe a sign that says welcome delinquents. That would really get the neighbors all figured up, right? Fired up. Anyway, it'll be a great time. Love to see you there. We'll put you to work. Show up with empty stomachs, open minds, and strong backs, or one of the three. We're going to build a bridge. We're going to clear land. We're going to clear paths. We're going to build an 8x8 building. And it's going to be awesome. I can't wait to see you guys. And to be honest, really what it's going to come down to is as the day gets toward the end, it's going to be a campfire. It's going to be bourbon. And what it really is going to be is fellowship amongst like-minded folk, because there's nothing more powerful than that. And what a great way to kind of spur on the weekend that'll be Self-Reliance Festival. But I love it. And also, for any of you workshop delinquents that show up, I have a super secret patch that only I learned a term from Nate at the workshop meetup that I hadn't heard before. I was just calling this a super secret piece of swag. He said it's called a handshake patch. So I had 100 specific patches printed, unfortunately, after LFTN this year. And you only get them when we shake hands and we have a conversation in person. So I have this container that had 100 in it. It's maybe got 30 left. So to me, at the end of the year, that empty plastic container is going to represent 100 members of the workshop community that I have met in person and had a substantial interaction with. And to me, what better way to build community or to have a tangible thing to look back on and say, look at all the cool people we've touched and been touched by. And that sounds really awkward and really weird. So, and don't worry, Kyle, we all have to live our lives. So don't ever feel like he says, I wish I could make it for that day. I'd love to have you there, brother, but we all have to do what we have to do. So guys, I appreciate you. I love you. It's a great night to have you on here. Thanks for sticking with me. And with that, as always, stay happy, stay healthy, and have a great week. Night, Mike. I see you just showed up.